So Abby's House started in the mid-70s. The founder of the organization, her name is Annette Rafferty, and she participated as part of a task force here in the city seeking to understand the state of homelessness across the city. And while she was a part of that task force, she began to understand that homelessness impacts women in a way that's a little bit different than the way that it impacts men. The city wasn't poised at that time, or wasn't, I guess, prepared to move forward with specific initiatives related to women. And so Annette came together with several other supporters of the cause, and through a grassroots effort, went into a lease of a duplex building, one side of the duplex, and the overnight shelter that became Abby's House was started. You know, I think over the years, what we really came to understand is that safe shelter is scratching the surface, and the ability to access affordable housing, long-term stable affordable housing, became sort of the next rendition. And so from there, Abby's House then grew to include the shelter as well as 3 properties of affordable housing. 1 property specifically for women with children, and then 2 properties for single women.
So we get, I would say on average, about 10 requests a day for shelter. So if you're talking about 7 days, we're talking 70 requests for shelter. We don't have that many beds. And so it's really, really difficult because we have right now over 500 people on a list, and we call it a callback list. Mm-hmm. And then we also know like which rooms are open and how many beds we have. But what we're really looking for are women that are actually living on the street, if they're parents, if they are unhoused, so not having a safe place to live, if there's domestic violence involved, and if there's a handicap. When we get calls, people are at their most vulnerable, desperate time. So sometimes we'll call them back 2 days later, and they're, no, I'm all set now. So it's it's a complicated system. So, you know, so we have to really, I could call 10 people and get 3 people that want to interview, and then get 1 person, you know. So it's not like, oh, every person I can call back because there's too many people, but we try to figure out like what rooms we have, what the needs are, and the most desperate at the top. We also really look at, we look at mental health and substance use not as a barrier, and like how can we help those people. So we might know that they're going to need a little bit more support, and we can do that here because we have, and I'll speak to that as well, but we have services for that.
While I've never experienced homelessness personally, I've definitely experienced a lot of the same kind of challenges that the women come through our doors face. You know, my background is in social work, and I've always been sort of committed and dedicated to doing real community-based work. And so I think that, you know, the desire to impact the lives of women, the desire to be a real role model for young women of color who are looking to advance their careers and to have sort of representation at the tops of organizations. I think that's really important to me. But it was also really important for me to be part of the nonprofit scene here in Worcester. I am not originally from Worcester, but it's really home for me now. I've been in Worcester longer than I've been anywhere in my entire life. And I think that Worcester has a really beautiful array of nonprofits. It's a community that I feel really blessed to be a part of. And so to be the head of an organization that's a part of that nonprofit fabric really meant a lot to me. We also work closely with the city in general. You know, some of the funding that we received for the renovation of our shelter, which you'll hear about, came from some of the ARPA funds that were received by the city, and we were one of the recipients of those dollars. We also work closely with other organizations that are connected to the lives of the women that we serve. So whether that's the Department of Mental Health or the Department of Children and Families, just a number of organizations that really impact how a woman goes through her everyday life, both as a single woman, but also as a mom.
I don't know if you've heard any of the history of Abby's. The founder, and there were a few people that were the founders, but they were nuns, and they were working for the church, and they really did a study about homelessness for women in Worcester. It had to be the 70s, the early 70s, and they found there was a real need for housing and shelter for women in this area. But they split. They left the church, and they started this. So on their own, they started this, and it started, I believe, as the shelter. This shelter, which didn't look like this, also had at one time the thrift shop. I don't know if you saw the thrift shop, but it was in the same building. They were like, everything was coming out of here.
Well, we have 3 separate units of affordable housing. We're barely scratching the surface on what it means to address some of the housing barriers and gaps that exist, not just in the city, but across the nation right now. When we look at some of the data around the income a person would be required to have as a minimum wage worker compared to what they could afford, the disparity is wild. So, an average 40-hour work week at a minimum wage is not enough for a person to even just afford basic living conditions. It's just not enough. And I think it's part of what keeps us going in terms of our work and our mission, but it's also somewhat discouraging. There are times when we have women who are in our shelter who are doing everything they can possibly do to make it in life, but the inability to just simply afford housing. And our units are pretty much full year round. We are in a crisis right now. The primary reason why women end up homeless is related to domestic violence, which is really different than why men end up homeless. The kinds of domestic violence that we see with women are typically intimate partner violence. So that includes, physical abuse, stalking behaviors, but it also can include things like financial abuse or emotional abuse. So for example, a woman who is financially controlled by her partner has just very limited options on what a safe next step might be for her. I think we address safety from a few different angles. On the one hand, we have, physical safety. We have a camera system. We have a security system. All of our doors are locked and require sort of fobs and different, ways to access. It's not just open to the general public. So we have a lot of the basic safety measures that need to be in place across all of our properties. But I think when we come to perceived sense of safety, right, that's more about how a person feels in the environment that they're in. And so we give a lot of attention to the environments that we have for our women. Our shelter is a home. Our shelter is, you'll walk into the kids' room and it looks like a kid's room. You'll walk into the kitchen and it looks like someone's coming home on a regular day to cook dinner. And it's that sort of feeling of just an average day in your home that does a lot to generate that perceived sense of safety. I think that that's really at the core of how we think about our work. For me personally, I'm a mom, and I think about my son at this point is almost an adult. He turns 18 next month. But when I think of the moms at shelter, most of whom have really little kids, they're all, around 7, 8, or some of them are younger. And I just think of what it means to get up in the morning, get the kids ready for school, get them off to the bus, then you've got to get these are things that we were able to shape what our shelter schedule looks like through the eyes of what it means to be a single mom, often of multiple kids. And so at this point, I would say while we have an understanding of the problem, we don't yet understand the full scope of the problem.
So we're not a long-term shelter. It's not for years, and we don't have a timeline. It's not like 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and you're out. So everybody that comes here meets with a case manager. We call them an advocate. And they develop a empowerment plan. So in the world of mental health or substance, that would be called a treatment plan, or a medical. That would be considered a treatment plan. We call them empowerment plans because it's what the guest wants to work on. Number one, we're always working on housing, on permanent housing. But number two, they might need to get a job. They might need to get insurance. They might need to get a pediatrician for their children. They might have to get into counseling. So all those that would be on an empowerment plan, if that's what they want. The only requirement for people that live here is that they meet with their advocate once a week and work on that plan. There's nothing else that matters. And they could stay, if they're working on their empowerment plan and they've been here for 90 days, they can stay for longer. If they're not doing anything, then we would have a discussion and a plan of like, what's your next thing? Where, you know, because you're not doing the minimum, you're not helping yourself, and we want to make sure that you're not on the street, but you can't just, this is not your final destination. The guests, they have to leave during the day. So they have to get up and get out every day by 8:30, shower or make their breakfast and get out. I'm here every morning by 8 o'clock and helping the last batch of people get out of the house. We open the doors again at 4 in the afternoon. And we made a decision. It wasn't like that when the old shelter was here, but we made a decision that kids are getting off the school bus, and it's really important to get the kids time to like get home and have, you know, maybe there's lunches to be made, the snack time and homework time and playtime. So that was like a thought, that why we said 4 o'clock. And then we have from you know, we have, they can come back anytime until 8:30 is like our time that we ask people to be back by. But if they can't be back by 8:30, they have to just let us know. Because some people have jobs, or some people have like a family event. But we need to be respectful, just like you would in your own home. Say, hey, I'm going to be late tonight. We expect the same thing. We want to know where people are and that they're safe. We have a sign-in, sign-out system as well. If the younger children and the toddlers, they all need to be upstairs and getting ready for bed by 8:30. And we close, the parents really asked, moms really asked to close the playroom by 7:30 because it was so distracting and they couldn't get the kids out because it's such a cute space and wonderful space. But you know what was shocking to me when I came here? I have not been here a year yet. And what was shocking to me, how much people give. So the donations that come in, and how people, not just the people that work here, but the people that are in our community, how much they give. And some people give it like a monthly donation. They just send toilet paper every month or paper towels every month. It's like, where is this coming from? This is people have a rotating Amazon account. I had no idea that was happening. They will call us and say, hey, do you need diapers? Do you need baby formula? So, because those are things that you can't sell well, you could sell, I guess, but we give them to people.
We just wrapped up our 5K last week on Saturday, which was a huge success. We do our 5K annually. It's our second largest fundraising event that we do annually. Our other really large fundraising event is called the Springtacular, and we do both of those events annually. Our website is always updated with a needs list. The needs of our women change because our population changes over time, our demographics change over time, and so we update that list all the time. And when we have people who are looking to donate tangible items, that's where we would usually direct them to. So there's a number of ways, whether it's, you know, giving actual donations, being a monthly recurring donor, or giving in-kind donations to us. But also just getting familiar with Abby's House, understanding our work, and promoting our mission in the community. I think also, at the end of the day, you know, as the executive director, what I think about is how do we keep the work moving? The work moves by the staff. And so, you know, a lot of people want to donate to specific programs or to a specific, you know, initiative where the kids can get to do something. At the end of the day, what keeps us going, what keeps the work happening, are all of the people who show up every day to do that work.
Working for Abby's is a special place because there's a community. It's not a huge staffing. I don't know if there's 40 people in the whole staff. It's run by volunteers. So, but we are like, people are in everything together. We just did the 5K, as you probably know. Every single staff member was there in some capacity helping with that. It's 100% participation. People there's things that they just do that to build the community. Like Mondays, people are making soup, so different staff are bringing it in and using a crock pot for everybody to have soup on Mondays. You know, it's like the little things that matter, and being recognized and feeling like you're part of a team that's doing something that's good for the community. How could that not be great?